So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a target spawner. So in this next section, what we'll create is a spawner actor, spawn targets that will have random locations, but we will put a box around them so we can control the area in which they spawn, and we will limit the number of targets that are created. So let's create the spawner actor. Excuse me. So we want to go into our content browser. We want to be in our blueprints, in our target, and we're going to right click in a blank area, and we're going to do a blueprint class. And we're going to choose actor. And we're going to name this BP underscore target spawner and hit return. Now let's double click on it and we open it up. And so under our components tab over here on the left, we want to hit the add button. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in box collision and select it. So now this box collision is going to be used as an area that we want our targets to spawn. This way we won't have targets everywhere in our environment, only in the place we want them. So let's name this box spawn underscore area. And so we need to compile and save this. And then what we want to do with the spawn area selected, we want to go to our details panel and scroll down to collision tab, which is about halfway down. Here is our collision tab. Now we want to change some of the parameters here. And the reason we want to change these is because we don't want this box to actually be a collision. We want it to just be an area. So first, let us uncheck our generate overlap events, and let's change our can character step up on to no. And then under the collision preset, we want to have no collision. So let's compile and let's save that. Now let's go to our construction script. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drag our spawn area collision box node from the components menu and put it right here underneath our construction script. We're going to drag off of the spawn area node pin, and we're going to type set box extent. There we go. And we're going to connect our construction script to our set box extent. So this is what you should have so far. We're going to right click on our inbox extent yellow pin, and we're going to promote it to a variable. So we've got another node in here. Let's make room for it. Actually, let's do it this way, because I like to have all of my lines nice and smooth. All right. So if we select the inbox extent, let's just get rid of in and make it box extent. And so with this node selected, the box extent node selected, let's go to our details menu and let's check instance editable. So we want to make it so that we can edit it. So we want to set the default values, but you can see there's none to be here to be had. We want to compile so that we can actually now change the values. So, you know, depending on your environment, you may want this pretty big. And so, you know, let's compile and save it. And let's go to our level and add it. I just need to, I have two monitors, so I just have to kind of move my content browser so that I can drag it into my world here. All right, there we go. And I want to go, oops, not bottom view. I want to go top view. And I want to drag my spawner into it. And you can see that's a pretty big box, right? So the whole orange is what our box area is. I'm going to put my content browser back up there. And so what I want to show you is with my box selected, if we're over in our details tab here, if I open up box extent, if I change the X and Y value to 1,000, you can see that my location transforms don't change. So, it doesn't matter, they work independently of each other. You can scale it using your transform, or you can scale it using your box extent. And so what I want to do is I actually want to I'm thinking where these barriers are here. I'm thinking I want to be in where my barriers are, and maybe like here, because I don't want them to go into my wall. And that's what I'm really looking at, is that I want them to stay within my game. And so if I go to the left now, you can see, oh my, it's really high. So let's bring this down. And it is quite thick. So let us make that a little bit thinner and bring it down. That might be a little too high still. And so we can kind of do something like that. And I want to make sure I don't go into the floor. Those are pretty high. Let's bring that down a little bit more. Something like, maybe something like that. And so, there's all these points. So I'm just going to round it up to, or maybe round it down, 1288 to 907 to 198. And so now it'll be much easier working with whole numbers. And so now I'll go back to my perspective. I'm going to, in my outline, I'm going to get rid of all my targets at this point, because I want to them to be created within the box. And if the camera is moving a little too fast for you in this upper right hand corner, you can bring it down so that it moves slower if you want. Or you can leave it at 4, or you can turn it up higher if you want it to go faster. So I like using the top and the left, right, and you can even use the front view to kind of line things up. So now we know where our box is going to be. So let us actually create the spawner so that our targets are multiplied. So let's go back to our BP target spawner tab, and let's click on our event graph tab here. And we're going to get rid of these last 2 nodes, and we are going to keep our event begin play node. And we're in fact going to drag off of it, and we're going to type set timer by event. And we're going to check the looping box right here, and we're going to put our time to 1. And what this is saying is that every second an event will occur, and we haven't made the event yet, but every second an event will occur. And 1 second may seem fast, but in the gaming world, this could be slow. So if you want it faster or slower, you can change your time. And this is where you would change it. So let's drag off the event pin on the set timer by event node. And let's type custom event. and we're going to name it spawn target. Okay. I want to make sure there are several targets present when we start the game. So let us drag off of the output pin on our set timer by event node. And let's type for loop right down here. There we go. And this is what your connection should look like so far. And so in the last index box right here, we want to type a value. And I know in my notes I said like 8, which means that you'll have 9 targets, but I'm a crazy person. I'm going to say 12, right? And then that means I have 13 targets. So I think 13 is a lucky number. So let's give this a go. So let's drag off of the loop body pin on our for loop node, and let's type spawn target. And there, oops, there it is. And so this is what your connections should look so far. And you can type in any number that you want for your targets. I think for testing, staying in that 8 to 10 range is usually good for testing this out. So now, so this is what your connections or code should look like. We'll have the for loop execute the loop body the number of times that is indicated in the last index box. So for me, it's 12. In the loop for the loop node, which for me is 9, actually 13 times, because I put in 12, so it's actually going to do it one more time. Then after 1 second, it's going to call up and spawn the same number of targets, right? So every second it's going to be spawning 13 targets and sending them out. So in the blank area somewhere around here under our nodes, let's right click and type spawn actor from class, and let's select it. And so in the drop down menu in the purple section where the class is, we're going to type BP underscore target. Oops, I typed it wrong. I added an extra R. There we go. So we're connecting our BP target in here. Now what we need to do is figure out our transform settings, right? So let's right click on the spawn transform location pin and choose the split struct. Remember that? I told you that we were going to be doing that quite a bit here. So and if I zoom in, we can actually read which pin we're going to be looking for, which is right here, spawn transformation. So let's right click on that and split the struct. Yeah, I think I need magnifying glasses here. So because we need to figure out the location and the rotation of our target separately, this is why we want to split it, because now you can see we have transform, location, rotation, and scale. Okay, so for the collision handling override, let's choose try to adjust location, but always spawn. We want it to always spawn. We need to figure out our location and save it as a variable because we need it as we proceed forward. So we have our spawn area box collision, and we can set a random location inside of that box. So let's right click on a blank area over here and type random point in bounding box. So there we go. And so the center pin here is going to be where our world location. Okay, and that's where we're going to connect. And then what we want to do is drag the spawn area variable from our blueprint spawn area, right, into our work area to the left of the last node that we put down, which is the random point and bounding box node. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose get spawn area. And we're going to drag off of this pin and type get world location. So I kind of need, I'm a dragger. I like to drag, and I drag like really far away. And so I never leave myself enough space. So I'm always adjusting my nodes. I love to drag. So now we have our spawn area, and you know, we have our get world location. And so now we want to take our get world location node, and we want to drag off the return value pin and connect it to our center. So on our random point in bounding box node. We're going to drag off our spawn area again. And now what we're going to type is get scaled box extent. And we're going to connect the return value to the half size. So this is what we have so far, and this is what your connections should look like thus far. And so now what we want to do is we want to store this random location and you know, and so let us do that. If we go back, I'm going to compile and save this. If we go back and stay in our, actually, I kind of jumped ahead. If you look at the notes, just in case you're following the notes, I probably should say this. I was like debating whether I should say this or not, but I kind of talked about the box extent tab and the transformer tab. So at the top of page 19, it's written down exactly what I said, that the transform and the box extent are two separate values. So you can change one and not alter the other. So if you're following along in that, we're now back into the BP target spawner, or you may be already there with me. And we're in our event graph tab. And so what we want to do is in the random point in bounding box node right here, we want to right click on the return value pin, and we want to promote it to a variable. So this is what we have so far. Okay. And so now what we want to do is we want to click on the new set spawner location node. And we want to connect that with the output pin. So the output pin of the spawn target node to the spawner location. I know that's a little confusing, right? So what we want, and let me give myself some more space, is we want to connect this variable to our spawn actor location. And we want to connect our spawn target to this node. And so really your connections should look like that. It's a mouthful, you know, because I wasn't sure if some people were going to be following along with me. On paper, versus doing this, watching it with a video. And so I wanted to make sure that if they didn't have the visuals in front of them, that they would be able to follow along. And so this is what we have. This is what we have. Okay. So now, on our node here that says set, which is our spawner location, we want to drag off of the yellow output pin, and we want to connect. Let me zoom in so we can actually read it. We want to actually connect this to the location, spawn transform location on our spawn actor node. So this yellow pin retrieves the values of the variables, so you don't have to use a separate get node, which is really cool. So when the targets spawn, I want them to face the player camera. And so they do a little bit, but as they spawn, some of them are going to not face forward. So I want to make sure they rotate to the camera. And we can do that by using a spawn location. So if we drag off of the spawn actor BP target node here, maybe I should move it a little bit to the right. If we drag off of the if we drag off, I give myself more space. I'm trying to figure out how much space I need here. If we drag off of this set node right here, right, off of the yellow pin again, and we type find look at rotation. Yeah, see, I do need more space. There we go. There we go. All right. I'm liking this. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes I get very thoughtful about my connections. So dragging off of our set variable, which is our spawn location, we're dragging off the output yellow node, and we're typing find look rotation. And so basically what this is saying is it's going to, the starting point is our actor and our target. And it's going to make that target look to our player camera. And so I still feel like I need some more space here. And so what we want to do is we want to connect the return value of this to our spawn transform rotation pin on this node. And so we're going to right click in a blank area to the left of our find look rotation node, right? And we're going to maybe type get player camera manager. There we go. And what we want to do is drag off the return value pin on this. See, I told you I just really need space. I don't know if I have enough space. Get world location. Yeah. It gets tight sometimes. And so you can see it also got us a transform component, which is fine. This checks for whatever camera is currently being used by the player. And so what we want to do is we want to now connect the return value pin on the get world location node here to our target pin on our find look rotation. See, I bet you thought I was crazy when I was thinking about my space here. And I think that that works. I think that that works. We could move this to balance it a little bit better. Maybe take these up. Yeah. All right. I'm liking that. I can live with that. Okay. I can live with that. So this is what your connections should look so far. And then if we get a closer look, we're going from get player camera manager, return value to target, transform component to target on the get world location, to our find look at rotation, to our spawn actor BP target. Woohoo! So now let's compile and let's save this. And so now let's go to our level and let's see what happens. Let's hit play. And let's see. Hey, there's our targets. Oh, but they're not facing me anymore. Look at that. There they are. Okay. So not too bad. I could, I could fiddle with the box a little bit so that it's not actually going into these pillars. But right now, I'm going to leave it alone. I think it works for the most part. Again, this is for the mechanics of it. I have some donuts in the wall of the game and stuff like that. So I'll fix that. I'm going to make my box a little bit smaller. So let's go to the top. And let's find my box. There it is. And let's go to our details. And I think I want to make it a little smaller here. All right. 583. And I think that'll work. And now, if you want to offset your targets because they don't face the camera, here's how we're going to do it, because mine are not facing the camera at all. So we want to go back to our BP target spawner blueprint, and on the spawn actor BP target node, we want to hold down the Alt and click the spawn transform location. So we want to disconnect this. And, oh, whoops, I think I did it on the wrong one. Pardon me. On the rotation one. I don't know. I want the rotation one because we want to rotate them. We don't want to move them. We don't want to change the movement. We want to change the rotation. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to split the struct pin on this so that we have a little bit more control over this. So on the find look at rotation now node, we're going to right click on the return value and we're going to split the struct pin on this. By splitting these, we'll have more control over our target offsets. So on our find look at rotation node, on the return value Z, which is our yaw pin, we want to add a subtract float node. So we're going to type subtract. Still need to move that down a little bit. And I'm trying to think what number I want. Let's try 45. Let's see what happens with 45 on the, on our Z axis. And so, you know, you can type that to whatever you would like it to be. You could have it, and this is going, we're going to change this on our z-axis. So we want to take our output node and connect it to our transform. And then we're going to connect y to y and x to x. And, you know, if you don't like 45, you could do 5, you could do 10, you could do 15, you could do 75. So, you know, feel free, it's going to subtract. So whatever it's set at, it's going to subtract whatever number that you put in there. And so, your connections should look like this. And so let's compile and save, and let's go back to our game. And let's see what happens. Hey, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. All right, I could live with that. And if you wanted to change them to make them a little bit different, you can change them to make them a little bit different. Like if you wanted them angled, make it look a little more interesting. I tend to do that sometimes to have them like at a 45-degree angle to the camera instead of 90 degrees flat on. It, you know, you can have fun with it. So, so now let me go back to this real quick and say, okay, this looks terrific. This looks terrific. But what is the problem here, right? If you guys go get something to drink or you go to take a phone call or something, these targets are just going to continue to multiply. So now what we want to do is we want to put a cap so that we're not, so that, you know, because they're just going to fill our area. So we want to put a cap on this. So let's go back to our BP spawner target spawner blueprint and be in our event graph tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the spawn target node and the event begin play node to our left. Okay. And then we're going to select these nodes here, and we're going to kind of bring them down a little bit, give us a little bit of room to work. And so, so your work area should look sort of like this. And then let's click in the right click in this blank area. And let's do get all actors of class. And so this is a pretty expensive node to call up, you know, so you shouldn't use it too often, but using them every second isn't too bad. So let's connect the spawn target output, which is now connected to our set. So we'll hold down the control key and we'll connect it, bam, like that. And let's connect the output pin of our get all actors to our set node, which is our spawn location node. So this is what your connections should look like. We could even bring this up a little bit. I don't like that my connections were hiding a little bit. So, so that's what you should have so far. And so let's change the actor class. So if I zoom in, you can see that there's a drop-down menu here. And let's type BP underscore target. And so we will have our class be our BP underscore target. And so, whoops. And so this is what we should have so far. And so let's drag off of the out actors pin right here. And you see that icon? I wish I could zoom in a little bit tighter. It's like a series of squares making a bigger square. And that symbol is an array. It's an output array. And so it means that it has several outputs, not just one output to it. And so let's drag off of that and type length. And so you can see that it has a similar connection here on the length. And so basically, this will return an array of all the targets in the world. And the length is how many targets do we have? What is the maximum number of targets that we want in our game at any given time? So let's drag off of the output on the length node and type less equal. I feel like I need more space. There we go. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to get crazy here. I'm going to type like 15 in this box. So what this means is that if there are more than 15 targets, no more targets are going to be spawned. If there are less than 16 targets, more targets are going to be spawned or made, right? So 10 to 15 is a great number for demoing. So feel free to make this any number that you want. And so just above the equal, we're going to hold down the B key. Whoops. Of course, we don't want to have our node selected. We want to hold down the B and click, and we get a branch node. So let's connect. I'm running out of space here. Let us connect the Boolean of our less than equal to our condition on our branch. So this is what your connections should look like. And then what we're basically wanting to do now is we want to move the connection here on our set. I don't think you guys can see it. See, it's going from the get all actors of class to the set. We want to move this to our branch. So hold down the control key and move that up there. So this is what your connections should look like so far. And now the get all actors of class output right here is going to be connected to the branch input, white pin to white pin. And so that's what your connections should look like. And so we want to connect the true pin on our branch node to the input of our set. And so it's basically saying here that if we have fewer than 16 targets, and this statement is true, then make more targets. If it is false, don't make any more targets. And so this see how crazy it got in a really short time. Look how crazy that is. And so now let's compile and let's save this. And let's go back to our level, and we're going to hit play, and we're going to get our target, our gun, and we're going to go after our targets. And you can see we're not spawning like mad crazy. So this is fantastic. So now the thing that we need to do is make our targets disappear, right? Because what's the fun in shooting the targets if they just stay there? So let's open up our BP target, and underneath our hot pink labeling over here, making sure we're in the event graph, So down here at the bottom, let's right click and do event hit. Oops, I did. Telling you, I'm a terrible typer, which is why I usually type slow. Event hit, and we'll zoom in so we can read this. And what we want to do is we want to, when the target is hit, we want the target to be destroyed, right? So how this node works is when an actor bumps into it, or if the object bumps into the another actor, it'll run this event. So if we drag off the output pin here, the top white pin, and we type destroy actor, then what's going to happen is that when we run into these targets, then they're going to disappear. Now, the problem with this is leaving it like this, anything can destroy our target. Our characters, you know, the guy shooting the gun can destroy the target. Anything else that you have moving in your game, if it hits the target, it's going to destroy it. So that's going to be a problem. So let's change that. Let's drag off the other pin on this. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a tag. So let's type actor has tag. And so if this actor has this tag, then the target will be destroyed. If it doesn't have the tag, then the target won't be destroyed. So in the purple here, we're going to type projectile, because we want the projectile, the yellow ball, to hit the target and to destroy it. So let's drag off the return value here and type branch. And so what we're going to do is connect the event hit output pin to this branch so that we have a true and false option on here, right? So then if this is true, we are going to destroy the actor. If it is not true, then we will not destroy the actor. And so this is what your connections should look like. And so now what we want to do is we want to go to our content browser. We want to go to our first person folder. We want to go into our blueprints, and we want to open up our BP first person projectile. So double click on it to open it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it is selected, BP first person projectile, under our components menu on the left. And we're going to go into our details, and up here at the top, we're going to type tag. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a tag to this, right? And we're going to type in here projectile, so that, oops, we want to get rid of none. Let's move some things out of the way. So that when the projectile now hits the target will be destroyed. So let's do compile, save, and let's hit play. And let's go. And here we go. And let's see if I can hit. Let's see if I can hit. I like to jump. There's no reason to jump, but I just like to do it. So let's hit. Oh, yes, there it goes. And you can see that more targets are being spawned. You see how hard I have. Like that one is being still, and I can't even hit it. And that's sad. So there we go. Oh, and we've got the cubes going. So yay. So it works. So this is the end of this lesson on the basic mechanics of building a game. And you guys can, spend more time kind of prettying it all up and polishing it all up. And so the next lesson that I'm going to do is to create a score bar to keep track of how many targets you hit and miss. And, we can keep track of our projectiles, and we can say, oh, you only get 30 projectiles. And so then you have to wait a certain amount of time to get more of your balls. So I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. And hopefully you can, use it to do many, many wonderful games. So until next time, have a great one.